Hi friends, welcome to Beautifully Bookish Bethany. Today's video is something fun and a little different. It's a reading vlog for the book Chef's Kiss that has been commissioned by Night Owl Reader, one of my viewers. And I thought, since the book that I'm going to be reading for this vlog is a romance involving cooking, it might be fun to use a new cookbook that was gifted to me by one of my patrons and make some of the recipes in this cookbook. So today's video is going to be a reading vlog for Chef's Kiss, and you will also get to see me make some recipes inspired by great fantasy books. First of all, thank you so much to Night Owl Reader for commissioning this reading vlog. If you're ever interested in commissioning me to read a book and make a video about it, there is a link in the video description to my Ko-fi where you can do that if you want. This is the first time I've had someone commission me to do this, which is very exciting, so thank you. I'm going to be reading Chef's Kiss by TJ Alexander. This is a romance between a high-strung pastry chef and her non-binary kitchen manager, and I'm curious to see how it is. I know that the person who commissioned this video really enjoyed this book. I think it is a less steamy romance from what I know. We'll see how I get on with it. And it is a book that I'm interested to read because people seem to have wildly varying opinions on this book. There's been some controversy over whether the non-binary representation is well executed. I will say from what I've seen, the author is non-binary themselves, but no group is a monolith and people's experiences of that identity are varied. So I'm curious to see what I think. I will say I don't share that identity myself. I am a cis woman, but I am a member of the LGBT+ community. So do with that what you will. I will link a video from Jessie over at Bowties and Books up above that you can go and check out, where Jessie had the opportunity to interview the author TJ Alexander of Chef's Kiss. So, you know, as I'm going through and reading the book, I'll give you my thoughts on the book, the writing, what I can see of representation, whether there's places that maybe this could have been better, things that maybe it did well. We'll see how it goes. I have not even started this yet, but I just know that there's controversy, so I think it's going to be an interesting video. But I also wanted to talk about the recipes I'm going to be making today. I'm excited. When I got this as a gift from one of my patrons, I immediately thought, oh, this would be perfect for this reading vlog that I'm doing. So the title is Cooking for Wizards, Warriors, and Dragons, 125 unofficial recipes inspired by The Witcher, Game of Thrones, The Broken Earth, and other fantasy favorites. And it is really cool. I flipped through it to like find some recipes that I want to do. The things I was looking for the recipes were, number one, something where I already had at least some of the ingredients, so I don't have to go out and buy everything. I am gonna have to go buy some things, but nothing too excessive. Number two, I didn't want to do anything overly complicated. I am not a chef, unlike the people in the book we're going to be reading. I do know how to cook. I make simple meals. I can do baking and stuff like that, but I am not a pro by any means, and so I didn't want to undertake anything that was going to be too complicated. And number three, I was looking for something that I could feed to my children. I'm solo parenting this week. My husband is at a conference out of the country, and I need to make dinner for my kids. I have a child with food allergies. My kids are also relatively picky eaters, so I wanted to find something that I could make and feed partly to them for dinner tonight. So that was what I was looking for before I share you the recipes that I have decided I'm going to make. And I have Chef's Kiss as an audiobook, so I'm going to be listening to it while I go and gather ingredients and do some cooking, so you'll get to see some of me cooking the recipes and how they turn out, which I think will be fun, and I will in between give you my thoughts on the book. I don't think it'll be a problem to finish the entire book today. It's going to take me about 4 hours to get through the audiobook. It's 11 a.m. right now. I don't anticipate it being too much of a problem. Worst case scenario, I might finish it in the evening after my kids go to bed, but the goal is to finish today. So here are the recipes I'm planning to make for the video. For dinner tonight, we're going to make a shepherd's pie inspired by the King Killer Chronicle series by Patrick Rothfuss, which is one of my personal favorites. This is something that looks relatively easy to make. It sounds delicious, and it sounds like something that my kids will probably eat. Like, fingers crossed, because sometimes they're like, ugh, what is this? It's new. I therefore don't like it just because it's new. So we'll see how it goes. But this is what we're going for, the shepherd's pie. It does sound delicious. There's Gruyere mashed potatoes, yum, and then a red wine meat filling. Are they gonna like the red wine flavor? I don't know. Should I just like nix the wine, but then I won't be getting like the full thing, and it is King Killer Chronicles. We'll see how this goes. That's the first recipe I am planning to make. Then of course, we're gonna make a dessert. Most of these desserts are not particularly allergy friendly. And as I said, I have a child with food allergies. So we're gonna make a Storyteller's Milk Candy inspired by the Kingdom of Souls series by Rena Barron. This looks easy to make, hopefully, and it can be made in an allergy-friendly way. You can include peanuts, but they're optional. So we're gonna try that out and see how it goes. I have not actually read Rena Barron's series, but it sounds intriguing. And then lastly, not for my children, I'm gonna make a cocktail. This is Dandelion's Delight, inspired by the Witcher series by Anders Sapkowski. This kind of seems appropriate since I am doing a read-along for the Witcher series this year, and it sounds good. I already have rum, so I was looking for something that was rum-based, plus I know that I like that. I do need to pick up a few other ingredients, and I'm supposed to have a shaker, which I don't have. So maybe I'll see if my local wine shop has a shaker. So those are the 3 recipes we're gonna make from this book. I will let you know how it goes, and I am going to start listening to the audiobook while I make a list of ingredients I need to acquire and take you along with me grocery shopping. Let's go. Okay, so I am back from the grocery store. I still need to go to the wine shop at some point, but I am hungry and I picked up some lunch for myself at the store too, so I'm eating lunch, having a lunch break. I'm 13% of the way into the audiobook, and honestly, I'm really enjoying it so far. The humor is working for me, and maybe y'all don't know this and not everybody is a fan, but I live for prickly heroines in a romance, and the main character, Simone, whose head we're in, is like such a grumpy, prickly heroine, and I kind of love it, especially because it's contrasted with Ray, who is just a ball of sunshine and is the new kitchen manager at Simone's job. I'm not super far in yet, but so far I'm really enjoying the dynamic as they're meeting. Simone is pissed off because she is the pastry chef at a test kitchen for a magazine, but the magazine is struggling, and so they're bringing in new social media experts to try to boost it and do video content. But that means working from SEO standards, which Simone is so annoyed at and wants nothing to do with. But also, if you are a foodie, it's definitely a foodie romance. The fact that I'm eating lunch is excellent because the food sounds really delicious. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the relationship. The voice is working for me. I'm finding it entertaining. I've laughed out loud a couple of times, so the humor definitely is hitting for me. And I'm really enjoying the grumpy sunshine dynamic between the two of them. One criticism that I had seen going in was that the main character dead names and misgenders the love interest. However, I, before starting, went ahead and watched that interview that Jessie, I think I said from Bow Ties and Books, but it's now Jessie on YouTube. The channel name recently changed. So I would suggest going and watching that because I think it gave me some insight into what the author of the book was trying to accomplish with this. And they talked a little bit about how they dithered over the decision to have the misgendering happen, but the reason is that Ray is not out at work. And so I think TJ Alexander really wanted to do something that was a little more realistic in terms of some of the issues that non-binary and trans people might face in the workplace. So I know based on that interview to expect more of that, more issues in the workplace, which I think should be interesting. Another thing I noticed that I think will be interesting is that the test kitchen is located in the West Village in New York City, which is near where the Stonewall riots happened, which is a big part of queer history. So I find it fascinating that there's going to be some challenges of being a queer, non-binary person at work in a place where you might expect there to be more understanding, right? So yeah, so far I'm really enjoying it. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to eat my lunch, listen to a little bit more, and then head over to the wine shop to pick up the rest of the ingredients I need. All right, I am back home. That was a bit of an adventure. I needed some help finding a liqueur de violette. It's like a violet liqueur of some sort that's going in it. They didn't have simple syrup and they didn't have a cocktail shaker, so I also went to Target. And we're gonna go with Torani vanilla syrup, which, yeah, it's got a vanilla flavor, but I feel like that's gonna work okay with the cocktail we're making. I'm also about 37% of the way into the book and I'm continuing to really enjoy it. The style is working for me. The relationship between like the grumpy sunshine thing is working for me. I do think that people who dislike prickly female characters might find this book a little insufferable because it is all from Simone's perspective and she is very grumpy and prickly, but I love it. It really is working for me. Even this far into it, Ray is still in the closet about being non-binary, and I suspect sometime soon that's going to come up. It is interesting too, the way that it's writing about the work environment in the test kitchen. I saw a review saying that they thought that this was probably related to the things that came out about Bon Appetit, which had a lot of behind the scenes issues, and that maybe this was drawing on that. It's also possible that this is drawing on the author's own experience of toxic work environments in the food industry, the restaurant industry. It's hard to say. I don't know enough to say, but that's clearly a theme that this is exploring, of long work hours, underpayment, etc. The guy that they had hired to do the social media videos is so insufferable. And I kind of enjoyed that there ends up being videos that were not supposed to go up that end up doing well. I guess I should say that there are some spoilers in this video because I want to be able to talk more in depth about what's going on in the book. So a video that Ray made just kind of for fun, being silly, accidentally gets uploaded with their branded information and does really, really well. And so they decide, hey, let's also make Simone be in a video series with Ray. And so that's kind of what they're doing. They just shot their first episode. It's cute. It's a fun idea. I love their interactions with each other. And the idea is to take sort of Midwest American childhood staples, have this cordon bleu educated chef taste them, and then find a way to sort of remake them and make them better and modernize them. So it's a fun idea. The first thing that they did was ambrosia. They call it Yankee salad, but I grew up having ambrosia. So it's just interesting to see this where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm very familiar with this. I think our version was a little bit different, but I don't know. It's kind of fun seeing some of that stuff. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I will say this. I think another criticism of this book, which I think is valid with an asterisk, is that because this is all from the perspective of a cis character, and because there's a lot of explaining of things that is happening, it feels more like a book about being a good ally than a romance that is centering a non-binary character. I do think that's true, but I also think that the author kind of did it intentionally. It was really interesting seeing their interview with Jessie, and I'm now like very grateful, to be honest, that I watched that interview before doing this video. But in the interview, one of the things that they bring up is how there are all of these questions and interactions that they have with people on a regular basis that are uncomfortable and like things that they're constantly having to explain. And they thought, you know what, it would be great if I could just put all of the things I want to say into a book and just have people pick up that book. So I do think that this book is intended to be, in part, yes, a romance with a non-binary character, but I do think it's also intended to be, in part, a book where a non-binary author is putting to page their experiences interacting with allies and the things that they wish people knew. So, I mean, valid criticism if that's not what you're looking for, and I'm not sure how this book was marketed exactly, but I also think that it's intentional from the author, given what I've seen. So Simone has a roommate who's a trans woman, and I think some of the conversations between them are pretty interesting because Simone asks some awkward questions and ends up kind of making a deal with her roommate Luna because emotional and intellectual labor should not be free. I think this is a conversation that's being had online with people of color, with queer people who shouldn't feel like they must carry the burden of freely educating people who can educate themselves or whatever, or who should pay for their labor. And so that's a bit of a conversation that comes up in the early days of their roommate relationship, right? Which I think is kind of cool. So Luna makes an agreement with Simone that if Simone is looking for reasonable amounts of information or education, that she can offer to pay Luna by cooking her food. And Luna can choose to decline if she doesn't want to do that. And I was like, that sounds great. That sounds like a really healthy, reasonable way to go about doing things if somebody needs education that is taking into account the fact that it is emotional and intellectual labor on the part of the trans person to do that. So I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I'm really enjoying this book. I'm going to reiterate, I think it was to my benefit that I watched this interview before going into it. So I kind of had in mind, on the one hand, concerns that I've seen from a few different people and from different reviews that I've read who saw things in this book that they did not like, that weren't what they wanted them to be. And then on the other hand, seeing the perspective of the author and what they were trying to do with the book. And so it's interesting kind of having that perspective, and I think it's been helpful for me. That said, we're going to keep going with it, and I am going to start cooking my first recipe. See if I can get you some video footage. We'll see what I can do. Okay, so I've got the mashed potatoes ready. I'm about to make the meat part of it, so I'm gonna do some cooking of that. And I am 54% of the way into the book, so let's talk about it. I will say this, while I understand maybe some of the reasoning for why the author decided to have Ray come out midway through the book, they just finally came out, I do think that it is uncomfortable to go the first half of the book with them being misgendered all the time. Like, it's just uncomfortable to read knowing that they don't use she, her pronouns. And so I could see how some people who are non-binary might have a negative reaction to that. I'm not, but I do have somebody very close to me who uses they, them pronouns. And so it's just uncomfortable. So I'm a little bit relieved that they've finally kind of come out and we're using the appropriate pronouns. I do think, again, with the whole process of coming out and Simone kind of processing that and trying to get better at using the correct pronouns and like processing their feelings about it, I'm glad that they're not doing those things with Ray. They know enough to not do that. They're talking to Luna, they're processing internally. But, you know, like, this book is all from Simone's perspective. And so again, you know, it is true that I would say that this is a lot about how to be a good ally to people in the trans community and people who are non-binary. And we're seeing in real time somebody learn what that looks like, starting to notice all of the highly gendered things out in the world they had just never noticed before because they didn't have somebody in their life that was non-binary. So I don't know. I don't think it's bad. I think it's being used as a conduit for the author to share things that they want allies to know and that they want to communicate. However, I totally get why there might be a varied response from non-binary reviewers, because there might be people who pick this up looking for a romance centering a non-binary character, and that wasn't really what they got, because that's not really what this is. I'm very curious, actually, to see what TJ Alexander's second novel is like, because it's two trans characters. So I'm guessing that that is going to have a very different vibe than their first book. I would read it because I do like their writing. Their humor works for me. I'm enjoying the characters' journey, but I can definitely see why there is some criticism. But I'm enjoying it. I'm going to keep listening, and I'm going to start on the next part of this recipe. Oh my God, I'm tired. So it is finally in the oven. The shepherd's pie is in the oven. Tell me why the recipe says, oh yeah, 15 minutes prep, 25 minutes cooking. Bullshit. It takes so much longer than that. I feel like I've been working on this for hours. I kind of have. It's like 4 o'clock. Anyway, it's finally cooking. It's baking. And I'm 77% of the way through the book, so it seems like a good time to excuse if you hear any noise. Oh, this is great timing. There's a construction in an apartment next to us, so sorry about the noise, but good time to do an update. It's also worth saying I don't know if I'll get to the milk candy. The cocktail is going to have to happen tonight after the kids go to bed, but I will put that in here because it should be fun. And this maybe was a little bit ambitious to do. It is reminding me why I usually don't do such involved recipes. I'm usually like a crock pot kind of girl. Throw some stuff together that tastes good, but it smells delicious. I am excited to try this recipe once it comes out. So that said, I'm 77% of the way into the book. It is tackling some more intense issues. Ray faces some workplace harassment, even from HR, and I think it's interesting, and, again, directing you to that interview, which I think was fantastic. TJ Alexander talks about how they wanted to have some level of realism of the kinds of things that non-binary folks might face in the workplace, and the way that even laws that are intended to protect people can be twisted in such a way as to harm them. And we definitely see that here. There is a brief mention of the lack of diversity in the workplace, but that's not really expanded upon. It maybe could have done a little bit more with that than it did. And another thing that's worth noting about this is that this is definitely a book that is getting into the nitty-gritty of things like medical transitioning, for instance, and things that non-binary people might face or have to live through. And I can see, again, why there may be a trans or a non-binary person who's going to this book looking for an escapist romance who doesn't want to encounter those things in the book. This may not be the book for them. One thing that I think is interesting is that Ray doesn't want to put up a big fuss about things because they need this job for the time off and for the health insurance because they're about to get top surgery. And so I think one thing that this is doing a good job of addressing is the fact that there are people who will put up with things in the workplace because they don't have a lot of other options sometimes. And so, yeah, in an ideal world, maybe they would fight for inclusivity and justice and being fairly treated. And I'll tell you, the way that they were treated pissed me off. And anyway, it's awful. But, the reality is that there are people who need those jobs regardless. And I think that this kind of sheds some light on that and different ways that people handle it. So I appreciate that this is a book that is talking about those harder things. We also do get some more intense information about the recovery process for top surgery. Ray last minute ends up needing someone to step in for their first night back at home after the surgery. And so we do get some nice caretaking scenes with Simone coming over and taking care of them. And this gets into some of the details of what that sort of medical procedure is like. I guess my feeling overall with this book is it is a pretty good version of the book it wants to be. I don't know that it's the book that everybody was hoping for. I don't know that it's necessarily the book that was marketed to people, but I think it's doing a fairly good job. There are, not perfect. There are some things it could handle better. But in general, I think that it's doing what it's trying to do well, and I'm enjoying the writing style. So those are my thoughts at this point. I will probably finish up the book and check back in. The milk candy, delicious, very sticky, but delicious. Very sweet also, but it's good. And the shepherd's pie is really good. I just had a spoonful to try it, but hopefully the kids like it. Wish me luck. I'm almost done with the book. A few more minutes left to go. I'll finish it while I'm walking to go pick my kids up. But yeah, I like it. I mean, I feel like this is probably going to be a 4-star read for me. I enjoy the writing. It's a very, very slow burn. We're getting to a point where I think we're about to have one sex scene, and I think that's probably all there is in the books. The book's almost over. So, they're definitely taking a lot of time to build that relationship, which I enjoy. I like a slow burn. Yeah. This has been fun. I am so tired, and now I have to take care of my kids for the evenings and wash a lot of dishes. Like, was this all well thought out? I don't know, maybe not, but hopefully y'all have enjoyed it. I will be back with a clip of making my well-earned cocktail this evening, and then we will wrap up this vlog. Y'all, it has been a day. I'm gonna try the cocktail. We'll see how this turned out. That's good. Also, the fact that I had to buy like the giant bottle of creme de violette and then I barely used any of it, well, now I have it. It's not like I make cocktails very often. I need to like make a friend who will actually make cocktails that could make use of these things, but it was a fun experience. I did finish the book. I liked it. I thought it did a nice job of having this steamy scene at the end that was not feeling the need to use specific language for body parts for our non-binary character, which I think in this case made a lot of sense. I do think trans people have different preferences with the way that that's handled, but yeah, I mean, this was fun. I tried something new. In case you're wondering, did the kids like the shepherd's pie? Not really. My little one ate like 3 bites of it and was like, I think the Gruyere had like too strong of a flavor. It was very rich. My oldest one like ate more, and then he was kind of like, not my favorite. But they liked the milk candy. So, we tried something new. I'm gonna call it a win. Hope you enjoyed the vlog. Again, thank you to Night Owl Reader for commissioning this. And, ultimately I would recommend Chef's Kiss with the caveat that you know what you're getting going in, because I do think that that's really important. I think that it does a pretty good job with what it's trying to do, but I can totally understand how people who went into it expecting something different might have felt a little bit blindsided by what they ended up getting. So those are my thoughts. Talk to me in the comments down below. And yeah, wish me luck with the rest of my week, because it's gonna be exciting solo parenting. I'm tired, y'all. It's been a long day, and these recipes were a lot more work than I was expecting. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more. Bye.